The artist's or creative person's life. Creative life introduction. As long as a man's inner nature remains stronger and richer than anything offered by external fortune, as long as he remains inwardly superior to fate, fortune will not desert him. The I Ching. I don't think any theory on how to be happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise comes close to my free spirit ideology, because I'm the only one who talks about the engine of your life, your essence as a human being, and how you have to honor it every day by releasing your natural inspired, aesthetic, sensual, hedonistic and loving energy to reach your own inherent standard, all the time. I wrote The Free Spirit's Search for Enlightenment because I wanted to tell whoever was interested that I live by a natural, intuitive standard I feel inside of me, that I believe was given to me by my Creator God. It was there when I was born. The most natural life is to try to follow it. My two main natural inspired pursuits in life are physical activities, not necessarily sports, just motion and releasing the strength and power I feel. Creative intellectual activities. I got indoctrinated to pursue pop culture coolness, capitalist success, and materialism, which I followed until I was about 28, when I realized I have my own natural standard inside of me of how I should live, which I now follow by trying to release at least 85% of the natural energy I feel in my free spirit every day when I get up. My goal in life is to try to be naturally inspired every day and release all that natural energy inside of me for its own sake, to do it because it's natural to me. Feeling inspired is a feeling of goodness, self-mastery, love, lust and passion for life, for the experience and thrill of it, because it's all we really got, that ongoing feeling that is our consciousness. I'm not an artist. I have no burning desire to express myself or show others the truth, beauty, perfection, or tragedy in my soul, but a lot of artists live for those types of feeling within themselves. I accept the fact that I live in a horrible, small-minded world where elitists crush good ideas and don't want a utopian society for all people because it cuts into their power and wealth, but there are lots of activists who fight for some cause every day, like the people at democracynow.org. These are all people who live for what they feel within themselves, as opposed to most people who have allowed themselves to get indoctrinated by their societies, often without realizing it, so they're living for pop culture entertainment, patriotism, the pursuit of money, popularity, fame, admiration, etc. If you study virtually all the secular, philosophical, and religious wisdom ever created from the beginning of human history, virtually all of it except for the modern-day success, prosperity, self-help industry tell you to live by what you feel in your heart and soul. Don't get brainwashed by the ego and pride of the outside world. The way to do it is to strive to release the natural inspired energy you feel within yourself day after day. Chapter 1. Live as an artist of your life. The final purpose, spiritual flow. Whenever in doubt, turn off your mind, relax, float downstream. Spiritual flow is soul, intuition, gut feeling, sixth sense, hunch, whatever you want to call it. It's living by soul, doing everything by feel, feeling what you have to do, what you should eat, how much sleep you should get, analyzing people very quickly with one look and responding quickly to any situation. It's simply your instantaneous feeling about anything in any situation based on what you feel in your soul. It applies to judgments of people or the feel of any situation. We all instantaneously judge people in our minds immediately upon seeing them. Beyond that, it often applies to danger. We can often sense danger immediately based on past dangerous experiences and instinct. Your mind is quickly evaluating the situation and sending signals to your body, usually a quick shot of adrenaline, a quick message to move, then action. Spiritual flow is based on the collection of all the experiences in your life now sitting in your mind at both a conscious and subconscious level, plus the innate gut wisdom you were born with. It enables us to quickly evaluate events and situations. It's instinct, the power of the mind to sense what's going on around you. Trust it? For me, it's always right. I never doubt it. I judge people by spiritual flow. Whenever I see someone for the first time, I look into their face to get a read of the aesthetic appreciation in their lives, i.e., Are they really happy? Then I look at their bodies to see if they respect themselves enough to have healthy to vital bodies. Next I look for arrogance and phony signs of coolness which tell me you're not strong enough to stand on your own. Do you wear status symbols from the world and trendy clothes, or do you present yourself as is, the way your God created you? Do you color your hair? Real people don't do something as stupid as coloring their hair. They don't deny who they really are. Your face, body, and clothing are your biography. It's all there. Nobody can really hide their true selves much despite what airs they put on, how many letters they have after their names, or how much money they have in the bank. The human mind is capable of very quick, very complex evaluations based on whatever information it receives, so I conclude that it's a highly logical thing to trust your inner flow because it's based on quick, intelligent thought which gives you an immediate sense about something. Try hashtag 155-159 and number 613 at the library for books about intuition. Here's a dose of spiritual flow from Rudyard Kipling, an enlightened kindred spirit who captured the essence of life in his poem, epub, which he wrote to his son, which won the Nobel Prize in 1907. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make your dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet triumph and disaster, and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to, broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings, and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they're gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can walk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you will be a man, my son. Life flow. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. Security is mostly a superstition. It does not exist in nature. Helen Keller, The Open Door, 1957. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their entrances and exits. Each man in his time plays many parts. Shakespeare. Life flow is basically ESP, extrasensory perception. You feel something for some unknown, mystical reason. Oftentimes, you don't know why, but you simply trust it and it's usually right. This is what Carlos Castaneda's of the Teachings of Don Juan books wanted to learn from the shaman Don Juan, who said that this ability to see is not a concrete ability like mathematics or driving a car. It's intuitive, you feel it inside, it's a knowing, a feeling of vibes around you. I think this is why I hold my dreams and daydreams so sacred, because they're the pure me. They tell me what's really going on inside of me without me censoring myself. I could tell you some uncanny stories about my dreams, but I won't. Just know that when you wake up and you can remember your dream, think about it for a few minutes. Analyze it. It will often tell you exactly what you're currently dealing with. Sometimes I get my sense of flow very clearly when I use certain recreational substances. Sometimes in conscious reality I feel vibes, the vibes of life around me, the vibes of the community as a whole, the vibes of a group of people, the vibes of individuals. I sense the auras of people. I can sense when there's tension, bad energy, good energy, peace, love, collective fatigue, collective joy, power, etc. It's something you feel automatically if you've got this life flow going through you. You have to first feel connected to your soul, then open yourself up to the energy flow around you, and you can generally sense what's really going on beyond verbal cues or the artificial distinctions of status, power, fame, popularity, etc. You feel like you're connected to the life flow of the universe. You can generally read people's souls very quickly. Despite outer appearances, the light, or lack of it, in a person's soul doesn't lie. It's written all over people. It's clear as day. You just have to see it. Vitality and goodness equals a strong light in the soul. Fatigue, hate, anger, evil, envy and negativity signals someone detached from their souls, hence, a weak aura. When people hide themselves, such as wearing hats that cover their eyes, wearing sunglasses, having lots of facial hair, I sense there's gotta be something wrong for a person to be behaving like that. There is the healing, empowering energy of a strong soul and the draining, negative effect of the weak soul. If you want to live a truly enlightened lifestyle, think of your soul as eternal light, God's light, part of the universal life force. Live to be strong within yourself and use that strength to help people reveal the light in their souls, so that through the process, you'll strengthen your own soul. This will keep your soul vital, and when you do it often enough, you'll get very strong and enlightened. The Buddhists say you continue to reincarnate until your soul achieves its purpose. When you hit that point, you become an angel, all soul, and merge back to unite with the Creator God from whence you came to live in spiritual perfection forevermore. This way of thinking is a great way to live. Whether it's true or not is irrelevant. It beats anything else I've ever come across to keep you feeling transcendent and pure. The purpose of life is to find the wisdom within yourself that your God placed there and live it out. This is about as good as it gets as far as I know. Forget about everything else in life and seek out enlightenment to see where it takes you. Then, after you've found your own personal truth, you have your path. The rest is just a matter of living it out, staying inspired, youthfully vital, and sharing it with other people. Whenever you live by anything less than true wisdom, your life is not fulfilled, it leaves something to be desired. If you want true wisdom and happiness in life, simply get calm, peaceful and loving, have a general idea of your direction and go with purpose to see where it'll take you. Like I said earlier, the hero's journey is to go out into the world alone, away from your family and the support of your community, to give you the time to see who you really are away from all that stuff. I went off to live a free existence, and it was only through that period of living with all its good and bad points that I eventually realized I lived by a certain invisible standard within me that I never would have found had I stayed in capitalist, pop culture land, taken on a job and lived through that whole standard career thing. If you're a great soul, you'll try to better the world in your own unique way. Your soul is one individual. Any group you ever belong to in life, regardless of whether it's big or small, operates on the same spiritual principle: the more soulful, the more powerful it is. The more materialistic and frivolous, the more disjointed and weak. Most people aren't born enlightened. They generally go along with the external forces of the world until some crisis or situation strips them of all their external comforts. Somebody close dies, they get divorced, lose their money, get fired, their house burns down, get disabled, their business goes bust, etc. Or they just plain feel empty inside, which leaves them feeling alone with only themselves. Only then do most people get a true awakening. When I achieved some capitalist goals, I still felt empty inside. When I didn't achieve other capitalist goals, I was left lost and angry until I took the journey to find myself and what was real in my life. Only then did I find true enlightenment. Most people will never find true personal enlightenment because, quite frankly, they've created a situation for themselves where they're on an endless treadmill of work, bills, and responsibilities to spouses and kids, plus the fact that they're doing all right living a mundanely comfortable life with TV, golf and good food. The other big reason is fear, accepting their half-assed jobs and their dull comfortable lives without much exploration or adventure. The struggle and journey to find my soul, then keep it fresh and strong, is all I really care about. As long as you're bound by the illusions of the world, you'll never be truly happy, peaceful, or enlightened. You can act cool and happen as many people do with their fancy cars, big houses, their self-perception of having made it in society, but so what? Tomorrow you'll wake up and either consciously reach for transcendence as an enlightened person or live in complacent limbo like most people do with their mundane capitalist illusions. Reality is you by yourself with your soul. This is where happiness, peace, and enlightenment, as well as depression and anger, are cultured and nourished and strengthened through your soul's work. All your external beauty, vanity, physical strength, status, fame, authority at work, trophies, accolades, popularity, etc. will eventually crumble away as you age. Then you'll be left alone with yourself. The only true power is the power of the soul. Culture it now so you can live a strong, happy, creative life full of reverence for the universe, which includes your soul. This is the universal path taken by all life seekers and enlightened people throughout history. Don't carry negative baggage. Simply let all hardships roll away off your back and keep moving on, staying strong in your soul. Don't impose upon other people nor hold them responsible for your happiness. A true artist just keeps moving on quietly with his soul's work, letting everything else roll off his back. You learn from the negative things, but you don't let them influence your life in any way whatsoever. Do your soul's work quietly and live a great life. Offer it humbly. If people want it, they'll take it. If not, that's fine too. You can only be true to yourself and not seek to impose your will on others. Focus on yourself doing your life's work lovingly. All the negative things that happen in your life are a part of your journey to find your true soul. Use them as learning experiences. Find friends and allies along the way to help you with your quest, just as you help them with their quests. Have as little fear of life as you can muster. There will be fear, but if you feel intuitively right about what you're doing, don't hesitate, do it. Do what you feel inside. Trust your soul, oblivious to external reward. Just think of fulfilling the work that was put into your soul when your God created you. This will fulfill your contract with the universal life force. Above all else, feel easy and light about life. You can only truly get this way by knowing your soul, conquering it and continuing to do so, thereby renewing yourself day after day. Only this can give you that elusive light, happy, youthful feeling with a spring in your step that we all crave so mightily yet very few have. Think of yourself dancing freely to your favorite song in a field on a beautiful sunny day with your soulmate and no one else around to make you feel self-conscious. This is how to dance through life in harmony with your soul, which puts you in harmony with the God Creator universal life force. Capitalism is based on competition with everybody else, but the best way to be is to get over competition with everybody but yourself. I refuse to compete with anyone. I try to be the best within myself in what I do, and that's it. Competition breeds animosity, egotism, and the illusory desire to be better than someone else for the stupid capitalist need for a temporary shot of superiority in some aspect of life, which is the heart of capitalism, the I'm better than you phenomena. There's no such thing as friendly competition if you're keeping score. Just be yourself, seek out your own truth and try to help others be the best they can be rather than compete against them. There's really no such thing as a midlife crisis. You should be a seeker seeking life all the time, but it's a fact that you'll reach a point where you'll know you're on the back end, that you've lived over half of your life, that you ain't getting any younger, and you might panic, especially if you've been living a Dudley life, and get serious, looking for some kind of spiritual and personal meaning, then do all kinds of wacky things to try to stay young or be like some chubby middle-aged babe I met. She said she was getting her groove back by doing drugs and having a good old time in some nightclub in Jamaica where she was for her vacation from her job somewhere, but she didn't realize vacations to exotic places won't help you get your groove back unless you work on your soul first. I say live well at any age as though you're young and enlightened, and you should go on in one big smooth flow until you die, a little less intense maybe as you get older, but there shouldn't be any great moments of panic when you realize you're losing yourself because of age. Just keep on living by soul no matter what. Life is simply the process of constant renewal through soulful pursuits, hedonism, loving actions, and going into the harbor for your soul. It doesn't matter what age you are, it's the exact same process. Freud was right about repression leading to anxiety caused by losing your real self. In our capitalist society, work, religion, and conformity force most of us to repress ourselves, thereby losing or never accessing our true selves, our ID as Freud called it, which is just another word for your true real self, your haven which contains your beautiful dreams, visions, soul and all your sexual and hedonistic desires. If you keep all this stuff hidden away from the surface for 20 years or so as you focus on being an upstanding career person or otherwise politically and religiously correct, you'll eventually lose yourself, get stressed, anxious, develop health problems and may explode into a nervous breakdown or say screw it all and go hedonist bohemian free spirit like some you see around who were once priests, cops, or bankers and now live totally free lives, indulging whatever passion they happen to feel at the moment to the best of their ability. Examine yourself to see how far your ego self, the way you are in society, is away from your ID self, the fantasies, dreams, and visions that reside inside of you. The further away you are, the more lost, anxious and stressed out you are. Life, one big fluid commodity. What matter it that all around danger, grief, and darkness lie, if but within our bosoms bound, we hold a bright unsullied sky. Emily Bronte. Contrary to the entire breadth of voluminous works of psychobabble out there, life is not a matter of steps, stages, passages, highly effective habits, self-defining moments, lightbulb moments, rules, or life strategies to get you somewhere, make you a benevolent soul or make you more successful, because enlightened people don't live by a list of things they ought to do. They live by knowing their souls and having the sense to do whatever it takes to stay close to them. They don't live by the plodding rules given to us by the massive convoluted machine of the system out there. There are no real stage theories or passages of life like Erik Erikson and Gail Sheehy claimed, subdividing life into 8 or so stages when the truth should be evident to enlightened minds, that you are your soul, which is your consciousness and essence, regardless of whether you're 8 seconds old, 8 or 88. The book Seasons of Life by John Kotra and Elizabeth Hall, number 155 or BF 713 at the library, from the subfield called Developmental Psychology, represents the views of hundreds of those people they call social scientists who are supposedly trying to map out a theory of life based on stages across the lifespan, but it's all phony, manufactured knowledge presenting the package deal of life as defined by capitalism, yielding very little or nothing useful to understanding your own life, because they don't understand that your one essence, your soul, which will always be the same from the time you have consciousness until you die. The purpose of life is to thrive by manifesting your soul's inspiration throughout your life, not anything else, regardless of age or circumstance. Granted, until you reach maturity and enlightenment, you are a student of life who needs education and experience, but once you get beyond that, life is reduced to just you trying to better your essence as defined by your soul, or in some cases to find your way back to the strong soul you once had that you somehow lost to the illusions of the world. The only true battle of life is to find your soul, what exists in the deepest recesses of your subconscious mind, and live it out forevermore, not abide by this capitalist view, packaged life stages pablum we've been fed since I can remember, i.e. school, career, marriage, mortgage, life insurance, kids, pop culture pablum, midlife crisis, ulcer, heart attack, retirement, golf, death. As I discuss several times throughout this book, work, family, kids, school, religion, etc. are all fine, but it's a matter of perspective. They can be an ally in the pursuit of your soul or a liability to it. The only real battle of life is to find your soul, then stay close to it via your soulful pursuits, which should both keep you inspired and inspire you enough to keep going along, getting stronger and closer to your true essence. Age shouldn't change your true essence. Your soul should always be your base, unless, of course, you lose it or never knew it in the first place. Then you'll be a lost soul grasping at anything to try to give you worth, like all those psychology, self-help, New Age and religious gimmicks out there which is everybody but the lonely truth which exists only in this book. Aging is just a physiological process, not a spiritual change. It shouldn't affect your consciousness all that much. Just keep living as inspired as you can all your life. That's all that matters. If you live by your soul, there aren't really many changes in life. If you're a lost soul or a distracted soul, you're all over the place, you have no base, you're always going through changes because you're so messed up. You live your life, something happens like death, accident, serious misfortune, or something greatly positive. If you're enlightened, you accept it all calmly and go on living your life just like always. If you're a wimp, you let it destroy you for a while and maybe even lose yourself even more than you are now, so you grasp for more straws looking for solutions, but you always have that gnawing, empty negative feeling inside. On the other side, if you're a lost soul and something happens like you win the lottery or meet someone who really likes you, you'll get all giddy and happy for a moment, but it won't sustain you. This feeling from something outside of yourself will go, then you'll be left alone by yourself again, and you will either be enlightened and do something to inspire yourself every day, day by day, or go back to your mundane self and live a generic life like you're used to anyway. There's only enlightenment and lost soul. Middle ground or doing all right, don't cut it because you're still lost, not tuned into your soul. Crises are just way stations to help you reveal your true self. If you're a lost soul being a seeker looking for answers, that's great. Don't give up until you find enlightenment. When you find it and get strong via soulful pursuits and constant inspiration, you'll have it, that elusive inner feeling of greatness, nothing more, nothing less. Your religion, culture, TV, community, etc. are all just mild inspiration or imposters next to the real you. Next to giving you a bit of positive energy, they shouldn't affect the real you one single bit. Ultimately, life is the search for knowledge and meaning within yourself as your quest for your version of your true primal essence and utopia. For me, when I'm close to my vision of perfection, expending my God-given talents fully, I'm as happy as I can be. It's a combination of the pure joy of the experience of life, sensual happiness, plus a deep feeling of personal identity within, meaning. Then there's the other factor of going beyond yourself to find a soulmate, kindred spirits, and the world at large to share your beauty in order to fulfill your life. So that's the basic game: youthful spark, inspiration, soulful pursuits, happiness, meaning, and sharing yourself with like-minded people and the world at large somehow. The generic life story of any real human being is pretty universal. Just go back to a good summary of all the stories, fairy tales, myths, and legends about life ever written in human history as advanced by Joseph Campbell in his books The Power of the Myth and The Masks of God, among others. After childhood, which I concede is a transitory developmental process way overanalyzed by psychobabble psychologists, the true individual goes out into the world alone to seek his life, fame, and fortune, or whatever else you want to call it. It's really the journey of the self, to live your life freely, giving yourself the time to explore it, to find the real you, then live it out to the best of your ability. All the challenges, dragons, and conflicts you read about in any mythical story are really about the individual confronting himself to find out what his true soul is all about. The enlightened soul meets all kinds of adversity, is slain to pieces by the ugliness, hardship, and evil of the world, feels intense pain and desolation, and dies metaphorically. Only then, like the slain phoenix rising from the ashes, does he or she find true wisdom and enlightenment. But the point is, you can't let the fear and adversity of the unknown outside world nor the fear of your inner self get you down. You keep fighting and moving towards what you're looking for, something within yourself that's the real you that you can believe in. Then once you find it, you've found your soul, something very few people ever truly find, even though it's a much bandied term in literary and poetic circles these days. Once you figure out the real game is soul and inspiration as acquired through real experiences in the world, you're enlightened, as close to happy as you'll ever be. So the game is quite simply to stay there for the rest of your life without losing yourself to the mundanity of time. I don't think you can really get this wisdom from a book, you have to live it to find it. Every human being has to live their own unique journey. There's no universal simple formula like all those superficial goal-setting self-help type books out there preach, except that you have to know what it takes to keep you inspired and euphoric about your life day by day and live by it. Regenerate your soul all the time. I took my journey, went out into the world, saw everything I wanted to see and came back to myself. I don't need to travel anymore. My life has been reduced to the connection to my soul and how to keep it inspired while satisfying my hedonistic pursuits along the way. Everything else is just minor amusement or pollution next to this. I'd rather stay in one spot and do inspiring and hedonistic things rather than travel around the world looking for something that only exists within me, the sanctity in my soul. This book might give you the general idea, but you have to live it yourself. You have to take your own journey and find enlightenment for yourself, what fits for you on your own terms, not what your daddy told you to do, not the straight and narrow path the church mapped out for you, not that phony crap you saw on MTV or what some phony psychobabbulist said. There are no real phases, stages, or transitions at any age or any decade in life. There shouldn't be any career or societal pressures on you to cramp your style and make you perform like a trained monkey in some way that's not really intrinsic to you, like to make middle management and have 3 kids by 40 years old. This is societal brainwash, not necessarily the real you. Enlightenment can come at 20 years old, 38 or even 91 years old, like the guy I read about who took up marathon running at that age. The bottom line is to find the unique beauty in your soul and live it out. Use your culture and anything else out there for inspiration and ideas to help you find yourself. Seek out romance and friendship for comfort, but don't listen to too much of what's out there. Find your true self, build on it and pursue your destiny. Find true love with a soulmate if you want, but don't waste your time on half-assed relationships with lukewarm loves unless that's what you want for a mild distraction, because if you want true love, you should give it your all just like you expect your partner to, without toying with each other's emotions. Just like life is either all soul or nothing at all, so too is romance either all love or nothing at all. You'll never find fulfillment through other people or romantic relationships unless you're already fulfilled within yourself. So if you're a lost soul, don't look to others to fill you up. Look within. When you find your true soul and live it out honorably, potential soulmates will see you and make themselves known to you. Don't buy into the world version of capitalist success, namely go to college, get educated by their standards, get a good job, die spiritually, get married, get a mortgage and a big TV, have kids, get a dull family car, get fat, old, retire, play golf and die. Play your game only. Listen to yourself. I know it's a hard path to be yourself, especially when you have to pay bills and all the dull, lost conformists are trying to put you down because they know you've got something they don't have, true freedom and ease with yourself, something unique and powerful within that you can use to help, amuse, or inspire people in some way to earn a living. That's a much better route to take than simply to follow the dull career path. Try to avoid all that crap out there about sex role stereotypes that attempt to mold you into a rigid set mode of behaviors. Just be yourself. Express both your masculine and feminine traits without self-consciousness or shame, whatever they may be. You're allowed to be yourself without bowing down to these rigid sets of rules that we've all been brainwashed by. Women are allowed to be independent and assertive without feeling self-conscious. Men are allowed to be soft and gentle without feeling self-conscious about it, but most of us still are. Think of yourself as the little boy or girl you were a long time ago and try to go back to that pure soul you had back then. Be like that in spirit, but a bit wiser, tempered by your experiences in the real world. Try to stay gentle and innocent within. Don't let the outside world harden you, change you, or make you a bitter, pathetic lost soul. The biggest tragedy in life is to die spiritually at a young age and give in to the cultural forces of the mass media world. Don't play homie's game. Be your real self. Life is a dance every single day. If you get somewhere like become CEO of XYZ Corporation, so what? You're still stuck in your head, you still sleep alone naked every night, you are still alone in your thoughts like every other human being. The next day it's just you in your skin, in your consciousness, just like always, and it's the same old story, either enlightened or lost soul, and ain't nothing out there or your so-called career gonna give it to you unless they're things that are intrinsic to your soul anyway. That's really how it is. Just because you're surrounded by capitalist, small-minded people doesn't mean you have to be like them. Be who you really are and you'll live the greatest life you possibly can for yourself. Enlightenment is a feeling of inner mastery, a feeling you can do anything you damn well want to do and do it with joy, toughness, and strength. Setting down roots, building a home for yourself, making things nice, comfortable, and orderly, saving a nest egg are all nice, but all you really own is that body, mind, and soul, and your time right now. As long as I have a functional roof over my head and a basic lifestyle where I own my time, I don't give a damn. I went to visit a friend of mine who bought a piece of coastal land in Belize and built a cheap house on it. Belize has been devastated by many hurricanes in the past. He said he doesn't care about material things beyond the basics, he just wants to live in a tropical climate, so if his house gets blown away, no big deal, he's more concerned with living out his life day by day than what his house looks like or how big it is. That's an enlightened attitude. Think before you become a pack rat materialist hooked on acquiring things that add no real value to your life. There's really no such thing as security. Something can always happen to wipe you out, be it tragedy, health problem, death of people close to you, stock market crash, accident, fire, theft, etc. Save for your future but live a full life in the present. Work in the capitalist corporate sense is the biggest lie because everybody's expendable, they just use you for labor in exchange for money, then when they're all done with you, they throw you away and forget about you. So if you tie your ego up into that, you'll have no base within to fall back on when it's over. Many people sacrifice themselves for their careers then feel empty when they're over because whatever they did in their job was not inherent to the real them in their souls, so in essence beyond the money they got out of it, they were essentially wasting their lives doing something that wasn't inherent to them. In the end, you'll eventually age, but so what? It's just part of the life cycle. You'll slow down a little bit, but if you focus on staying close to your soul, keeping your youthful spark and inspiration strong, striving for sexual vitality and your particular brand of hedonism, you can stay pretty close to all of it till you make that final exit and go off to meet your maker. It always comes down to soulful pursuits, inspiration, youthful spark, hedonism, true love, and going into the harbor for your soul when and as required. That's as simple as it gets. You have to regenerate your soul all the time. That's the real key to life. Live it out with a free-spirited, bohemian I don't give a damn flair, but always have the discipline to keep your real self close by doing your soulful pursuits and contemplating your soul all the time. Strive to cherish your life. You're going to die, so what? Live to the fullest now, 'cause it's all you got. Acceptance is a huge part of aging gracefully. You reach a point where there's no mystical, magical, far-off, utopian dream to fulfill. You accept your life as is, as it happens, day by day. You not only accept it, you cherish it just like I cherish my life all the time regardless of the aging process. I'm almost 50 as I write this. I used to think I'm an old man by society's standards, but then I realized I'm as old as I feel. I still feel young. I still got that vitality. Men lose 1% of their testosterone every year after 30. That's a fact of biology. It's no big deal to me because I accept who I am right now. I'm not who I was physically at 30, but I make the best of what I have. Chapter 2. Why creative people are extreme. Starry Night. As soon as you trust yourself, you will know how to live. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Whatever else you do, don't waste even a rock. It's your own time, it's your own life that you're spending. Make it a goal to waste it on something you really enjoy, not something you're merely hung up on doing or something someone brainwashed or guilt-tripped you into believing you have a duty to do. Claire Wolfe, The Freedom Outlaw's Handbook, clairewolfe.com. Freedom is scary. That's why most people would rather live in a comfortable, little box. Don't compromise yourself, you are all you have. Janis Joplin. Let him that would move the world first move himself. Socrates. Life on planet Earth is just a series of random moments all strung together. If you want to win at it, live for what makes you feel good and disregard the rest. Bohemian Bob. We become what we think about. Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret. Big Brother is a term that refers to the various establishment institutions out there like the government, the church, the mainstream media, the entertainment industry, the corporate structure, the formal education system, etc. Whether we realize it or not, whether by design or not, all these forces together exert a manipulative force on us, sometimes subtle, sometimes direct, that makes many of us neurotic because they're constantly brainwashing us with two conflicting viewpoints at the same time. 1. The competitive, go get 'em, ambitious, be a winner, be cool, trendy, successful, high status, elitist, capitalist, consumerist ideology. 2. The Christian New Age, we are the world, love humanity, serve your fellow man, cooperate with each other, be humble, be thankful, forgive and forget ideology. These mixed messages constantly coming at us in roughly equal proportions have the effect of separating us from our true natures, at least brainwashing the weak people who don't realize this is what's going on. The net result of this indoctrination is that many of us who don't know our souls or live by them become an inconsistent basket case of contradictions and anxieties in trying to conform to all these demands the world surreptitiously places on us. Live by the essence that God endowed you with, unpolluted by the delusions and illusions of the world. You have nothing to prove to anyone, only to answer to your own standard every day when you wake up. You don't get wisdom by going to school, taking X number of courses taught by a bunch of generic psychobablists until you fulfill some requirements and then get certified as a wise person, nor do you get it reading any psychobabble self-help books except for this one, which is the only one that gives you pure truth as opposed to manufactured psychobabble. Truly wise people can only get wise by contemplating their own lives and coming to their own insights. You cannot get wisdom about your essence/soul out of any book, not even this one. I am telling you the way, but you have to take that journey to discover your true nature yourself, then have the guts to live it out in the face of all the clones around you parroting the crap they see on TV, wanting you to be like them. While I think religion is generally a good force to control the masses, keep them law-abiding and give them comfort and hope when they're down, it also has the effect of closing minds down by imposing rigorous codes of conduct on them. You might feel sacrilegious for going against the religion of your youth, as both James Joyce, Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, and I have done in questioning our Catholic roots, but it's the only way to free yourself, to let go of everything except for what resides in the pure primal divine mix that is you. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. James 4:14. Life for the enlightened is to enjoy the dance day after day. There's no paradigm about winning versus losing or success versus failure with me. If I give worthy effort to expend my natural inspired energy right now, I've served my purpose for the day regardless of outcome. The process of releasing this energy is my joy and my fountain of youth. That's the prize, the fact that I stay spiritually, physically, and medically younger than others my chronological age by releasing intense amounts of inspired sensual loving mystical energy to stay true to my nature. I release plenty of intense inspired energy, but unlike these people with their plotting one-dimensional goals, it's in a flow coming from the true nature in my soul. I enjoy the process and accept this as my reward right there and then. I have no illusions about setting some capitalist goal then someday reaching it thinking my life will magically change, because it won't. My consciousness stays the same regardless of outside forces. When the average, brainwashed person reaches one of their capitalist goals, it will leave them empty because they won't know what to do with themselves the next day. For enlightened people, we know that reaching some goal or not reaching it will not change our consciousness, since we're connected to our souls, playing the game to stay inspired day after day regardless of anything in the outside world. If I don't reach a goal I set for myself, what am I supposed to do? get depressed like all those one-dimensional high achievers who set highly structured, defined goals for themselves, don't reach them, then get all stressed out and bent out of shape. It's all systematic brainwash imposed on you ever since you were a kid in school. By following my own standard away from the standards of the world system day by day, I have managed to hold onto my youthful spark by not letting outside illusions interfere with who I am inside that was there pure and free in my soul when I was born. Basically, most current gurus start off with the implicit assumption that we all want the same things in order to be happy and successful in life, which equates to the system's formula for success and happiness, namely generic stuff which is generally defined as success as capitalist status attained through either career or business achievement and the acquisition of material wealth. Family, which is the pursuit of a monogamous relationship called marriage, then being fruitful and multiplying by having children. Then virtually all of them tell you to serve your fellow man and worship your God, which I think is kind of funny because it flies in the face of the self-centered, materialistic, competitive gospel of capitalist success they preach, but no one ever seems to bring this glaring inconsistency up. Everybody who lives by the traditional version of the American dream seems to have no problem holding two inconsistent values at the same time. Be successful, ambitious, and competitive in business and / or your job to get a nice house with nice things for yourself on one side, while going to church to be a good Christian and supposedly helping your fellow man on the other. If you were a true Christian helping your fellow man, you would be a humble person with sparse possessions in service to humanity, who cooperates with others rather than competes with them to either try to get to the top of the corporate ladder, win some gold medal somewhere, or get the biggest market share of whatever business you're in. I don't get it when people pray to God to win a gold medal in a swim meet, to be successful in business by getting more market share than the competition, or to win a war against another country, because if you were truly godlike, you would throw away your competitive motives and instead try to cooperate with your fellow man rather than trying to beat him to stand on some transient pedestal of superiority for a minute or two to satisfy your cheap, lost, one-dimensional ego, which is the crux of the capitalist ideology. I believe in using the natural power in my soul to release whatever inspired energy lives inside of me to either help, entertain, or inspire people to earn me my cash, but beyond that, I have no interest in the capitalist games of wealth, popularity, fame, and status people play. I live according to my own standard, pure and free. I compete with no one but myself. Release all the energy that lives inside of you, the inspired, the sensual, the hedonistic, the psychedelic, the untamed, the primal, and the loving energy. The only rule is that you don't infringe on the lives of people who don't want to be involved with you, but whatever consenting adults do together is fine. The free spirit ideology is no gods, no masters, just us as the masters of our own universes with the freedom to do whatever we want as long as we don't infringe on the lives of others. This is where modern-day mainstream society has missed the boat in several ways. We have given control of our lives to the government, religion, the public school system, the mainstream media, the cult of pop culture celebrity, the ideology of capitalism, the conventional self-help gurus of the day, etc., and buy into a formula on how to be successful and happy within this system. But some of us know intuitively that this type of lifestyle equals a slow destruction of whatever it is that lives inside of us that has any real meaning with respect to living a good, free, self-respecting, happy, transcendent life. The total losers are the people who don't make an effort to release any energy at all, neither the natural potential inspired energy in their souls nor the mundane energy to try to earn a living or attain the system's version of success like most of the population does, so they have no identity beyond the pop culture crap they fill their minds up with. This quickly leads to self-loathing. All we really own is time. Nobody is above humanity with respect to health, aging, death, nor does anyone automatically get a free pass to the only few elixirs of life. Youthful spark. A sense of inspiration. Self-respect / personal dignity. Peace of mind. Love and respect with a few people and pets. These are the great equalizers. Everybody gets old and withers away despite what pretensions they live by regarding material wealth, coolness, fame and status in the world. Material wealth can enhance the quality of life, but only to the point where your needs and some cheap thrill desires are met. The fulfillment of your deepest needs and desires can only come from the soul. If you're living at a comfortable lower middle class level, all the gadgets and thrills you can buy are enough. The toys and stuff wealthier people buy is all just external dressing. It will not enhance your life all that much. All the money, status, and fame in the world will not give you the few elixirs of transcendence, inspiration, youthful spark, self-respect, peace of mind and love. You can't buy them. You have to create them and earn them all the time. The greatest politician is a has-been once he's out of office. His identity as a power broker is gone just like that. It was not an inherent part of his soul, so it can't help him now. He lives alone in his head like you. He can't rely on love taps of admiration from his adoring public or his subordinate yes men anymore. He's either got a connection to his soul or he's just another lost, generic soul. It doesn't matter what his position out in the world is or was. What is the essence of beauty and madness? I get an image of Van Gogh, in his multicolored, psychedelic mind, high on wine and probably opium on some night in his short life, frantically trying to capture this grandiose feeling he had of the magnificence of the cosmos in the moment, painting Starry Night, which is the way I try to live, in that inspired sensual type headspace as far away from the so-called real world as possible. It's like Thomas Paine said, give me liberty or give me death. You don't want to do it halfway. Van Gogh and Gauguin, manic depressive or just living hard. An artist's life is one long martyrdom. Paul Gauguin. I am savage in spite of myself. Paul Gauguin, in Tahiti, 1896. The age of 30 is, for the working man, just the beginning of a period of some stability, and as such, one feels young and full of energy. But, at the same time, a period of life has passed, which makes one melancholy, thinking some things will never come back. And it is no silly sentimentalism to feel a certain regret. Well, many things really begin at the age of 30, and certainly all is not over then. But one doesn't expect from life what one has already learned it cannot give, but rather one begins to see more and more clearly that life is only a kind of sowing time and the harvest is not here. Van Gogh, letter to his brother Theo, February 8, 1883. The older movie Lust for Life with Kirk Douglas playing the role of Vincent van Gogh showcases his evolution to become himself fully regardless of anything else in the world. Rejected by the church in his attempts to be a missionary because he associated with the poor natives too much without the dignity they thought a member of the clergy should have, he couldn't work a regular job because, as he said, his ideas were different from the people who handed out jobs. He had to live to release the inspired energy within. He got his revenge on his repressive upbringing and all those priests who tried to mold him their way by living out the rest of his life as an exploration of his inner whims, a sin according to the puritanical, Victorian dogma of the day because he acknowledged his supposed dark side and explored it. He painted a picture of a guy working in a field in the splendor of the midday sun and said this is how he wanted to go when he died, with his soul as full as it could be, shining with the brightness of the noonday sun. His death at 37 in 1890 was part suicide, part madness, a typical end for many extremist creative types who can't seem to function in the so-called real world, so when they don't reach their vision of beauty or make money through their creative efforts, they get discouraged, lose their spark, and since that's all that matters, it becomes very difficult to live a plain existence like the people around them. Van Gogh was an epileptic, alcoholic, smoker and intense artist, which generally means a life of extreme highs and lows as he set out to get beyond conventional reality to capture bits of transcendence here and there. It's good to be this original, but for some, it leads to feelings of loneliness and alienation from the world since they feel they're so different from just about everybody else on the planet. Van Gogh had to be who he felt inside regardless of consequences. It eventually cost him his life. Van Gogh got away from realism into the fantasy elements of surrealism as seen through the likes of dreams and hallucinations through his friend Paul Gauguin, who was also into the fantasy elements of painting more so than realism. The two lived together in southern France for a while focusing on their painting, but they were two big egos who couldn't live in peace together, so Gauguin left, took a 69-day boat trip to Tahiti where he had a blast for a while, found a patron who was willing to give him a steady income of 300 francs a month for his paintings, fathered at least 4 children cavorting with the native girls, but he caught syphilis which led to a painful death at a young age. Paul Gauguin epitomizes the life of a guy who started out following the typical brainwashed path, then suddenly got enlightened at some point in life. Born in 1848, he did a 6-year stint in the merchant marine at 17, then entered the stock market, was unhappy with a wife and 5 kids, so he went off traveling and painting at the age of 30 or so. Disgusted with the politics of the European art scene, he took a ship to Tahiti, which was a slow, tedious process back then, but it shows he had the guts to go out looking for new horizons, even though I feel he was morally wrong in starting a family and not following through with it, but that's his business, not mine to judge. He said, "From now on, I will paint every day, not being influenced by our civilization. I only desire to create a simple art." He referred to Tahitian women, like Eve, still able to walk naked without indecency, preserving all her animal beauty. He lived a great hedonistic, spiritual life in Tahiti for a while with his various teenage lovers and his obsession with painting. He called his bronze self-portrait of 1896 Savage, Over in French, and the book he wrote with Charles Morris describes an untamed, free, passionate life. He said, "I am a savage in spite of myself," meaning he couldn't help being his true primal self, unfettered and unrepressed. His other book was Gauguin's Letters from the South Seas. He died in 1903, in debt and in pain. There was no eulogy or flowers at his death, but it doesn't matter. At least he had the guts to try to do what he really wanted. There's a monument to him in Tahiti now which tourists go and visit. I believe it's at his gravesite. Recently, there was another guy, Charles McPhee, as portrayed in the documentary movie Velvet Dreams, about this guy who didn't want to live in the capitalist world as he called it, so he went to the South Sea Islands, painted beautiful semi-naked women on velvet, and became a celebrity in the world of velvet nudes. His paintings are still selling all over the world. He was an old man in the film living in New Zealand, but it was an interesting life compared to most. When Gauguin left the house he shared with Van Gogh went off the deep end. I guess he hated being alone, which fueled his madness. After his ear-cutting episode, he was committed to a sanatorium for a while where he continued to paint, then he got restless and left to live at an inn. His brother Theo's wife had a baby, so Theo wrote to tell Vincent about it and told him how tough it would be to support his family as well as him. This hit Vincent hard, who, as far as anyone knows, painted over 900 pictures and sold just one painting in his lifetime, Red Vineyard. He felt he was a burden on his brother and made his first suicide attempt, which failed. He was discouraged to have his creative vision rejected by the world. He lived a beautiful, short, tragic life as immortalized in the song by Don McLean, Vincent. "This world was never meant for one as beautiful as you." He was the epitome of an original trying to purge what he feels inside, giving up all the fruits of a material world to pursue his visions. Then when he wasn't able to support himself through his art, he let it get to him and crashed, which is the story of many creative types. Inspiration is lost, the flame is gone, they feel betrayed as misunderstood artists by a world that doesn't acknowledge their efforts, so they off themselves. But if they were a bit more rational, many could make it through simply by learning to be more temperate, accepting life as finite time and choosing to honor it regardless. Van Gogh is a martyr of the human soul, which is probably why so many people are attracted to him as an historic figure, because he represents something in all of us which most of us aren't willing to sacrifice ourselves for. Some creative types have enough money to live comfortably, but they off themselves when they get bored with life. They feel they've gone as far as they can go in the exploration of their subconscious minds, aka the soul, so there's nothing left anymore to keep them inspired, and they rationalize that it's time to move on to the next plane of existence. Many middle-aged creative types have done this or just died naturally at their young ages after a flurry of creative activity. Consider F. Scott Fitzgerald, Edgar Allan Poe, Søren Kierkegaard, or Oscar Wilde, and a Japanese writer I read about who committed harikari after he got bored with life at 47. These people have gotten it all out of their systems, whatever it is they feel they were sent here to do, and after that, it's over, they can rest in peace, and many do, either killing themselves or dying accidentally on purpose by getting sick in some way. They're telling their subconscious mind they want to die, and it returns the favor by obliging them with an illness that kills them. Consider the quote by Goethe to Johann Eckermann, March 11, 1828. Mozart died in his 36th year. Raphael at the same age. Byron only a little older. But all these had perfectly fulfilled their missions, and it was time for them to depart, that other people might still have something to do in a world made to last a long while. Creative types feel too much, which is why they're so moody or manic depressive, take your pick of terms. If Van Gogh could have made a living from his paintings and not be dependent on his brother Theo, he might have been all right, but he couldn't compromise his creativity, so he ended up killing himself rather than give in to working a dull job in order to support himself. This is how extreme creative types think. If we can't be ourselves, life isn't really worth it. I'll refer to Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. Van Gogh had no choice as to the way he lived. He had to follow the song of his soul, and when it didn't pan out materially, he still had to live that way, even though it led to such discouragement that he started going mad, cut his ear off for the love of a prostitute who he thought was his girlfriend, but to her he was just another guy. In the movie Lust for Life, he stabbed himself. In the movie Vincent and Me, about him and his brother Theo, he shot himself after painting the classic picture in the noonday sun. In a book I read, he shot himself. Normal people have a hard time finding their souls and getting inspired. The curse of a creative person's life is that they have no choice but to live by soul regardless of outcome. Many creative types throughout history lived and died for what they believed in, which made life very tough for a lot of them. I've read my share of books about creative people in past history. In this modern world, our problems are nothing next to what many of these people had to live through, struggling to be themselves in very repressive religious and political times where they were persecuted as heretics simply for speaking the truth and expressing themselves. In today's world, it still ain't necessarily easy to live as a creatively inspired person, although a few luck out and become pop stars or something like that. But the problem with this is, where do you draw the line between following your own creative visions no matter what and selling your soul, so to speak, letting your work get corrupted by the corporate suits who'll probably want to package you as a certain image at the expense of what you really want to express about yourself? I've seen both, the folk singer type with his guitar who plays his own stuff at little nightclubs, and the manufactured pop stars who sell whatever originality they might have had in order to be packaged as the new sexy starlet of the month, doing anything the suits tell them to do, in effect, selling their souls for the money and fame. Which is right? You have to eat and want to live in comfort, but at the same time, if you can't be true to yourself, life has no real meaning beyond transient glitter. But a wise person who has an opportunity to get manufactured as a pop star would milk his or her gimmick while the going was good. Then when the public moves on to the next fresh new flavor of the month, they'd have the money to do whatever they wanted to do for the rest of their lives. Very few people live out their pure selves over a lifetime. Almost everybody sells themselves in one way or another. Life for the majority of creatively inspired original people who want to stay pure and unpolluted by commercial exploitation is still that of the starving artist. It's part of the process to explore the dark side of life, poverty, discouragement, anger, and other painful things, such that you come face to face with your truest, deepest soul and express it in your own way, like the blues created out of the pain of life, or anything great, which is ultimately all about adversity and the triumph to overcome it. The one constant with all creative types is that they believe in themselves regardless of what the outside world throws at them. There have been many like our inventors, explorers, artists, philosophers, thinkers, Plato with his philosopher king concept, Socrates who said know thyself, Shakespeare with his famous quote to thine own self be true, and the list goes on, all people with restless spirits that made them want to reach for something different and paid the price, but did it anyway because they had to be themselves no matter what. If you're a creative free spirit, be ready for a lot of indifference and outright hate to whatever it is that you might try to do in your own unique way to offer to the world, because you're an individual, you're not motivated by the things the typical generic people have bought into. They see that in you, are jealous, and will try to make you feel like a weirdo by putting you down as an oddball. Just smile to yourself and know that they're that lost that they're sticking their nose into your business, which is their punishment for being the duds they are. Then ignore them and concentrate on your own life, not theirs. The way I see it is that the lot of a creative person is basically elitist simply because you choose your own path over the generic, conformist path. You're separating yourself from the pack, stating that you're an individual and your lifestyle and vision is better than all the so-called normals you're surrounded by. They sense your vibes and hate you all the more for trying to be an individual. Meanwhile, you look at them and see a bunch of low-level people living for such mundane things as materialism, capitalist ambition, status in the world, pop culture entertainment, good-tasting foods, etc. So you know they don't understand inspiration or the need for it to stay spiritually vital, and that's where the chasm stays, you with your focus on inspiration and transcendence, them with all their low-level pursuits, not understanding why they feel empty and unfulfilled all the time while you're releasing your natural store of inspired energy, watching all those lost souls thinking they got it going on while they're looking at you and seeing the exact same thing, a lost soul who doesn't conform to the way so-called successful people live their lives. It's just the way it is. The world likes conformity, hates free spirits because you can't be controlled and packaged into a clear category like any typical system dud who thinks he's successful because he wears a suit, drives a minivan and has a dull job. Free spirits are often perceived as weird or offbeat by the normals around them because they're not strongly motivated by money, things, or food like everybody else. It's often too mundane for you to feel any inspiration around you, so much of your journey will have to be alone. Most people go to work, go to school, eat, watch TV, go to some pop culture event, go shopping, and that's the entire extent of life. The world is all about production, food, and bills, not you with your free spiritually inspired thoughts, so be ready for your life if this is the path you choose. Discouragement is the opposite of inspiration, so if you plan to offer your creative wares to the world, unless you luck out and make it as a teen idol, a Microsoft, or something like that, be ready for a lot of rejection. Creative people live for inspiration. When this is destroyed by a constant beating from the world, many go wacko. I'm warning you upfront to find peace in your soul first before you go out to set the world on fire with your incredible, unique talents, because the world will laugh at you and spit you out. Then if you still got guts, you'll say screw 'em all, I am who I am, I'm a perfect specimen for the way I was born and I'll live it out come hell or high water. Only then will you graduate to the elite club of pure enlightened spirits. It goes like the old song says. Can't please everyone, so you got to please yourself. You always end up alone, responsible for your own happiness, which is why I've taken on an attitude to live my own life such that regardless of what happens out there, I'm still calm in here and playing the inspiration/hedonism game, which I'm intelligent enough to know is the true secret to a long and happy life. I constantly come across tense and miserable people who are that way because they don't feel as successful and trendy as they feel they should be, so I'm looking at them through my own inner standard and they're all bent out of shape even though they have all the earmarks of capitalist success, while I live like a low middle class bohemian. Who's right? You decide for yourself. VanGoghMuseum.nl. The extreme creative type. No artist is pleased. There is only a queer divine dissatisfaction, a blessed unrest that keeps us marching and makes us more alive than the other. Martha Graham, in Agnes de Mille, Dance to the Piper, 1952. True art is to do something to try to make others feel as intensely as you feel. The easiest way to know you're an extreme artist, stuck on your talent, passion, cravings, or whatever you want to call it, is if there's an urgency to your work or you're intensely religious about those few particular soulful pursuits you do, such that you feel you'll die inside or get severely depressed if you're prevented from doing them. It's both a curse and a blessing at the same time. It's good in the way that you're never bored, always inspired, but it's bad in the way that you're stuck on it. You sacrifice a lot of things to stay true to yourself, particularly the time you spend with the people in your life, because you're so obsessed with your particular soulful pursuit. I realized I was stuck on my soulful pursuits when I couldn't give into the standard career path for very long. Any job, no matter how interesting anyone proclaims it to be, gets old real fast if it has to be done on a regular basis. Most of us start out with high hopes and dreams of what we'd like to do, but they're all but gone by 30 when we settle into a rut, except for the few that can't give in and seek to earn their keep by creating something from within that they love to do anyway. Some creative types get rich within the creative realm of the real world, others don't and get discouraged seeking solace in booze and drugs, since creative types are extremist for experience anyway, or they may off themselves as many do, because the inspired soul is all that matters, and once it's gone for one reason or another, their raison d'etre is lost, so they check out as a logical conclusion because their business is done on planet Earth. They've gone as far as they could go and there's nothing else left to do. Surveys on creative people show that many die by middle age after a flurry of creative activity, as if they've expended themselves fully and are now ready to rest. Extremely creative people have lots of issues, one of which is the tug between societal norms and the visions of the lone artist to hold onto his individual identity and express himself. Some creative types are obsessed, they can't help what they do, they can't rest on their laurels. They have to always be either writing, painting, creating new songs, on the road playing gigs or whatever. This is when it can get detrimental in life, because many creative people are just too damn intense for their own good, always trying to fill themselves up by creating something or giving of themselves to the world. Their personal relationships suffer tremendously because they give in to their creativity over love. I read that Isaac Asimov, the famous science and sci-fi writer, was so hooked on writing that even after he got sick and knew he was going to die, he spent the last few months of his life feverishly writing away. The classic artist's dilemma is that they only love their art, and even though they strive to earn their keep through their creative pursuits, many don't. They'll gladly do them for the joy they get out of them, but in this production-oriented world, people need money to pay bills and need to justify their existences with tangible results. Hence, the intense need to be recognized for your work, although many won't be recognized simply because the demand for their product isn't there. There's intense competition or they just don't get the breaks. However, these extreme creative types can't give in to a regular life. They'd rather live in poverty and do what they love rather than sell their souls by exchanging their time for a regular job which they perceive as a death sentence. This is the price you might pay for being true to yourself. Another big issue that many creative types have is the cycles of life. Because they're intense by nature, they go way up then crash for a while. Many creative types live a life that some would call manic depression, while others would call simply living out the extremes of all your moods when they come. Because I naturally want the extremes of my experiences, to get higher than high and lower than low, I often supplement my moods via drugs and or alcohol, because they help give me the intensity of experience I need to feel I'm getting some use out of this thing I call my life. This is normal for a lot of creative people simply because it's the way they are, always searching for the euphoria that frees them from the mundanity of the human condition for a while, or searching their depths to see who they really are on a primal level. It's all about feeling free through creative work and mind-altering substances. The creative person lives to free his soul, to get it out somehow in a meaningful, passionate, intense, frenzied way. This creates the good feelings and euphoria about life. Then when they get down, they generally take it way harder than the average person because they brood and analyze it so intensely, creating a worst-case scenario in their minds which feels so bleak such that in one instant of depression and alcohol, it could be all over. While many creative types burn out and die at a young age, many evolve to reach a point where they accept themselves, move into a calmer phase of creative expression, unlike the passionate, hot creative fires of youth and otherwise live decent, happy lives. When I was young, I was intense, but now that I'm older and my body slightly battered due to injuries, I'm calmer and more balanced. I still do a lot of things but enjoy myself more while I'm doing them. It's not like a race anymore. I'm in it for the long haul now, to preserve myself on into old age, Take life easy and enjoy it as I go along. I've passed the hump of the hero's journey. I've gotten it out of my system. I've lived through my darkest moments and seen myself for who I am. I lived through my best moments and know the lifestyle I want to live. Some make it, some don't. Many can't live in the real world and off themselves rather than deal with it. It's too mundane and the struggle too hard just to meet basic needs, so they cut out permanently. I've known a few. If they don't feel they're creating meaning from within themselves that's worthy somehow, they can't be bothered with life and check out. Many so-called has-beens are like this. After their glory days are over, they can't handle the plainness of life along with the fact that they can no longer touch people with their gifts, so they feel useless. Many creative people simply can't handle the future prospect of a life working a dull job to pay bills and choose death rather than deal with it. Many creative types are too sensitive and live all the burdens of the world within themselves, hence, the reason why they're perceived as moody. That's the curse or the blessing, take it whichever way you want. I just push everything out of my mind and keep moving forward because I feel this need and energy inside that I have to get out to give me worth within myself. I hate to spend time doing the routine things like shopping, cleaning the house or paying bills, so I do them as quickly as possible and forget about them because I want to live in my free headspace so much unbothered by anything but what I want. I've given up just about all the carrots of the conventional world for this, love, money, security, and lived through dark periods where I brooded about my future because I didn't have much money, but I don't want to do anything else, so I go on with my life vowing that I'll stay true to my soul until death do us part and fly off into the alleged ether somewhere like heaven or maybe hell in my case for being such a hedonist, although after watching a show about near-death experiences on religious TV, I know that if I find myself face to face with Satan, I'll just have to holler for Jesus and he'll come rescue me in a shining ball of light to take me where I really belong, with the good, down-home Christian folk up in heaven listening to angelic, harpy music singing good old Negro spirituals like in that old movie The Green Pasture. The journey to freedom. When I am, as it were, completely myself, entirely alone and of good cheer, it is on such occasions that my ideas flow best and most abundantly. Whence and how they come, I know not, nor can I force them. Those ideas that please me I retain in memory and am accustomed, as I have been told, to hum them to myself. If it continues in this way, it soon occurs to me how I may turn this or that morsel to account, so as to make a good dish of it, that is to say, agreeably to the rules of counterpoint, to the peculiarities of the various instruments, etc. All this fires my soul. My subject enlarges itself, becomes methodized and defined, and the whole, though it be long, stands almost complete and finished in my mind so that I can survey it, like a picture, at a glance. Nor do I hear in my imagination the parts successively, but I hear them, as it were, all at once, gleich alles zusammen. What has thus been produced I do not easily forget, and this is perhaps the best gift I have my divine Maker to thank for. Amadeus Mozart, from his letters. Come to the edge, he said. They said, we are afraid. Come to the edge, he said. They came. He pushed them and they flew. Guillaume Apollinaire. Of all the things I ever encountered as a young man, only a few ever felt right for me, like the novel Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce, Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach, richardbach.com, Siddhartha and Damien by Hermann Hesse, mcl.ucsb.edu/Hesse, levity.com/corduroy/Hesse, the movie and novel The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand, the song The Spirit of Man by Chris de Burgh and B by Neil Diamond. The book and PBS TV series The Power of the Myth by Joseph Campbell, pbs.org, reduced all of human mythology down into a common journey, the hero's journey, a process of self-exploration and self-discovery. There is always a point of adversity as the phoenix is slain and cut to pieces, but then has the wherewithal to rise from the ashes and reclaim the true power of the soul. This is the journey of the soul. The universal quest of man is to live for soul and minimize everything else, to finally realize that the stuff the world sold you on about being successful and cool is all an illusion. The only thing that really matters is what you feel in your soul. I know there are many out there trying to live for their souls in their own way, perhaps not understanding exactly what they're doing except for those feelings within, and perhaps confused by the massive tidal wave of conformity sweeping through them as defined by the system telling them to get with the program, namely stay in school, then get a dull job and a mortgage and call it success, while deep inside, they feel it's lame and not them, but don't know what else to do because they're stuck in the system and haven't stopped long enough to figure it out. I believe a creative soul is something you're born with but must work at in order to release. The greatest sin is to let it die inside while you work a dull job, then water your lawn on the weekend and realize this is it. Life is like a comfortable caged rat being manipulated by forces you let control you. The 1973 book Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach had a statement something like they were being themselves perfectly without self-consciousness, doing what they were created for, flying, in their cases to soar to their highest heights as best as they could, happy for being who they were. I think of Da Vinci, Edison, and all those others who live lives exploring what they want, chasing their creative and intellectual whims, many of which don't yield a positive, practical result for the real world, but so what, they're living their journey, doing what they see fit at the time, and sooner or later some of them come up with great things for humanity, but for the ones that don't, so what? They're living their lives on their own terms, making use of themselves to themselves every day. This is the greatest, most enlightened way to live. The free time to live your life unfettered the way you really want is your most valuable commodity. The only problem is money. Find a way to earn it by doing something that you like to do that can help people. At times when you're young, you don't know who you are but just have to keep going in the direction you feel is right and working at what you feel inside. Don't do as millions do and let life suddenly stop once you get into a career path. Keep exploring your life. If you live like this, you can't go wrong no matter what happens. Sooner or later, you reach points of enlightenment if you're willing to pay the price of introspection and the pursuit of your true self through taking your inspired soulful pursuits as far as you can. The pursuit of aesthetics is basically to recognize the beauty inside and live to create it on the outside. It's about living for the creative, intense, transcendent parts of yourself. To some people, it's all-encompassing. It means everything to pursue their own conception of beauty, soul individualism, and mysticism. The psychobablists like to call it a narcissistic personality disorder. To real individuals, it's the only way to live, free and pure. It always comes down to the journey within. The world is just the setting where you find this out. In order to really get the most out of your life, you have to throw caution to the wind at least once and do something really tough and challenging alone. This is the true test of life. Live your life your own way. Creative people have forged many of our frontiers and make life interesting, but it doesn't mean it's easy because you're often surrounded by people happy with the routine. It's about feeling passionate about something and simply doing it on a regular basis. I believe that the only life worth living is the life of an aesthetically inspired individual, to find your God-given talents and pursue them with passion. That's what God wants, every person to contribute their particular, unique beauty to the symphony of the world. Anyway, life is right now. It's really all about spirits on high. Run in as much as you can to become the person you were born to be, regardless of the mundanity of the world around you. Ask yourself the following questions to help determine what your true identity is. Were you happy as a kid, living by your own whims and inspiration? Have you ever thought your own thoughts and did your own thing, content within yourself? Have you ever felt peaceful in your own space, unfazed by the world around you? Do you live with a sense of ease and possibility? Do you explore your life for the experience that it is, not giving a damn about anything else, even practical, pragmatic things at times? Do you look for adventure, stimulation, and excitement regardless of what it is? Do you try to define truth, beauty, and perfection, then try to create something beautiful and unique that has inspirational, worthwhile value? Do you trust yourself over and above everything else on the planet? Do you consider learning to be a lifelong process? Do you have an intrinsic thirst for knowledge? Do you feel that your job or your major in school is not your true calling? What do you really care about? What are you really interested in? Do you believe you have the potential within your life to do whatever you want, or are you looking out there for answers and inspiration? Do you feel inspired most days? What do you think of the capitalist lifestyle? Do you feel inadequate because you don't have all the stuff and capitalist success you want? Do you feel a gnawing sense of emptiness inside that you're not living the way your life should be lived? Do you follow your own standard rather than some other agenda? Do you release your natural energy all the time? Chapter 3. I want to go past the conscious mind. The subconscious mind. The dream is the small hidden door in the deepest and most intimate sanctum of the soul, which opens into that primeval cosmic night that was soul long before there was a conscious ego and will be soul far beyond what a conscious ego could ever reach. Carl Jung, The Portable Jung. The theater of the mind is the easiest way to enjoy your life. Regardless of circumstance, state of mind is everything. Anybody can live in that lusty, beautiful, happy place known as your soul, your insular Tahiti, your own personal paradise, your highest vision of aesthetic beauty. Your subconscious mind treats physical reality and cognitive thought the same, so whether you experience an event in real life or merely imagine it, the effects on your mind, body, and soul will be almost identical. Regardless of the circumstances of your life, you can choose to be happy by enjoying the scenarios you create in your mind, choose to be mundane by living in the rut of the so-called real world all the time, or choose to be sad by stressing yourself out over negative things. In order to be happy, you have to wear multidimensional, rose-colored glasses and enjoy the view. Freud said dreams are the expression of the subconscious mind, that hidden part of you beneath the surface of conscious reality that holds your inner truth much more than your conscious thoughts can. Unless you're enlightened enough to live totally by soul, then the conscious mind is soulful all the time anyway, which means you're so free that you pretty well live by your subconscious mind all the time. If your soul is unfulfilled and you're feeling miserable on a daily basis, your dreams will bring out your subconscious soulful thoughts and tell you what you need to do. Oftentimes, your dreams come from your pain, an unconscious desire to do something to change your unhappiness. The way to fight pain is to do something good to overcome it. When I went through a period of physical inactivity after an accident, I found myself dreaming of the vital guy I used to be. Listen to your dreams, it's your soul telling you what you don't have the sense to face head on out in the open, then do something about it. If you're not being a good enough lover with your family, they will tell you that too. The subconscious mind always speaks the truth. Freud talked about it as the most important facet of your life. It comes to the forefront when you sleep and dream. Sometimes you may try to repress painful things from your conscious mind, but you really have to deal with them to resolve them even though you don't want to. In these cases, you get flashes of them in your dreams, daydreams and other idle moments. They automatically assert themselves. This is your soul/subconscious mind talking to you. For example, suppose you had a fight with your daughter and have been estranged for the past 20 years. You may put it out of your conscious mind but find yourself waking up from dreams about her. In the same way, your subconscious mind spits out images of your archetypes at you. You get flashes of you at your best, being who you were created to be, living in some mythical paradise. I take all these images as the real me, my highest vision of aesthetic beauty, then release energy to make them real, but I'm no fool. I've been around long enough to know that any image is a picture frozen in time. Every morning when I wake up, I have to honor who I feel I was born to be. There is no picture-perfect moment in life which stays every day, forever. I know that every morning I have to challenge myself to do the physical and creative activities I do every day in order to keep a hold of the person I feel I was born to be, so I do them every day no matter what. I'm hooked on honoring my few archetypes. I'm a workhorse, but it's not like work to me. It's like natural joy, being in my pure element as an individual, doing exactly what I feel I should with my life. The mind-body-soul triad does not discriminate between real conscious thoughts, concrete day-to-day events, and the thoughts of fantasies. What you feed into your mind on a constant basis enters the subconscious mind as programming and affects all the cells of your body and even your soul. Hence, the solution is simple. Think greatly about life and put it into action. Fantasies are great provided you don't cross over into delusion. They will set off a chain reaction such that the interaction between mind, body, and soul will keep you strong and inspired. Prayer and meditation are essentially the same things for the effects they have on the psyche by programming it for a positive flow of centering energy. You can talk to your subconscious mind and tell it to do things. You're basically programming yourself for whatever you want. Your subconscious mind never sleeps. Tell it when you want to wake up and you will. If you start to bombard yourself with thoughts of losing weight and getting thin, the body will accommodate you by getting thinner. In a nutshell, your thoughts create habits out of which you can create your own destiny. You are what you think and reap what you sow. Fear of falling and fear of noise are the only two natural, instinctive fears we're born with. All others are acquired through learning. Since they're learned, you can unlearn them by willing them away with the subconscious power of suggestion. Any way you want, you can write the script of your life by entering thoughts into your subconscious mind to create a new reality for yourself. The imagination is born in the subconscious mind. Incubation is a process whereby you take in certain thoughts about a situation, mull them over in your mind and leave it alone. Then while you're sleeping or daydreaming somehow the subconscious mind is working on it and all of a sudden, it spits out the answer in a simple, clear way. This is insight. You suddenly see the big picture of it all. Incubation in idle contemplation will open a pathway to your subconscious, to your true inner soul. Everyone has tremendous latent powers within their subconscious mind. You just have to access it and live it. Open your mind to new ideas, use your imagination, visualize knowledge flowing into you and power flowing out of your subconscious mind. Books about the subconscious mind are at number 154 and hashtag 616.8 at the library. Fantasy/creative visualization. Since we can't change reality, let's change the eyes through which we see reality. Nikos Kazantzakis. Without this playing with fantasy, no creative work has ever yet come to birth. The debt we owe to the play of imagination is incalculable. Carl Jung. A big part of living a great life is fantasy, although very few people will admit to it. Life is at least 90% of your time alone stuck in your own thoughts. Virtually some part of the day is geared to tedium such as repetitive tasks, driving in traffic or whatever. The subconscious part of your soul takes in what it gets, analyzes it and spits out either a happy, powerful person, a generic consumer or a sniveling wimp depending on the feedback loop. What this means is that regardless of whether you're living a great life or just fantasizing about one, the results will be the same on your psyche. Real life cannot compete with the incredible fantasies you create in your mind, which is why I live there a lot. I may create a sexual story, a love story, a great adventure, perfect peace, etc. Everybody does it, it's no big deal as long as you don't go into delusion. Some of it is aimless fantasy, which is fine if it makes you feel good. Another part is what the so-called experts call creative visualization, visualizing yourself as a champion of life, seeing your success in your mind and making it happen. It's all about programming yourself to feel great about life regardless of the circumstances you're in. It's not delusion if you know the difference between fantasy and reality. The only real reality is the thoughts in your brain, your stream of consciousness, and all that materialistic stuff around you is just dressing. If you can program yourself to be happy in the most meager, miserable circumstances, you've got it made. And it's all about fantasy, talking to yourself all the time, creating beautiful little stories in your mind with full, technicolor images. I've read several stories about people living through hell and making out all right because they kept fantasizing about better days in beautiful surroundings. There was Roger Caron in Go Boy, who tells about his life as a criminal going through the Canadian penal system, where he ended up at Penatanguishun, a prison for the criminally insane, Midnight Express about Billy Hayes in a Turkish prison and Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl living through the Nazi concentration camps. Consider the case of another concentration camp survivor I saw on TV, Joseph Mendelssohn. He was an artist by trade who survived by imagining that he was creating great works of art on the canvases he pictured in his mind. These guys kept their wits about them no matter what was happening around them and dealt with life by imagining themselves in better circumstances. The bottom line is that not only do fantasies make you feel good but have a great effect on your performance as a functioning human being. They give you strength and power to continue on with whatever you're doing, all the way from athletic pursuits to going for your dreams. They can put you into that headspace that some people call the zone, where it seems like time is suspended. You feel great, crystal clear, like you can do monumental amounts of work and otherwise outdo yourself during that brief, little interval of time. So my point is clear. Fantasize away, turn your fantasies into action, then reality. Fantasy is fine to help you get through the day or motivate you to go for your dreams, but delusion will destroy you because you're not using your intelligence to see the whole picture free and clear with no blinders on whatsoever. Reality is always preferable to delusion because in order to be in control, you have to know what's going on around you. Some people say that ignorance is bliss. There's even a statement in the Bible that says too much knowledge causes a worrisome, burdened heart, and while I agree you shouldn't try to know everything or take on the burdens of the world, as in watching the news on TV and keeping up with all the negative current events around the world, ultimately, people who live in ignorance invariably crash due to that ignorance at some point in time when reality hits them. Fantasy and creative visualization are great to keep you feeling good and happy, but at the same time you must acknowledge to yourself that it's just fantasy and live in the real world. Visual artists, writers, sculptors, and a few others generally get to release their fantasies through their work, like the sexual art of Pablo Picasso, the horror of Stephen King, or the erotica of an ace nin. It's a great way to live provided you can make a living off it. Vision quests. Major vision quests are basically times you take to get away from it all, to center yourself and come to your focus with vigor, or looked at in another way, your entire life is one big vision quest, a journey of discovery, a work in progress. But even as you go along with your mission and know what it is, you have to occasionally take time out to reaffirm it in your mind because it inspires you and keeps you strong in your vision. If you don't have your life's vision, this is the only way you're gonna get it, either getting away to do nothing for a while, such the thoughts of your soul will eventually come to the surface, or do as I did, live without a job and any responsibilities beyond basic bills, do what you feel you must intuitively and contemplate your life day after day. Sooner or later you should find your soul and live it out. Another approach to the vision quest, which is basically beating a path to the subconscious mind, is simply to take certain recreational substances that do the job handily, or wear yourself out such that the visions automatically come to you. This is what the native sweat lodge ceremony is about. It wears you out such that your true visions come forth. The traditional vision quest of sending young braves out in the woods alone to find themselves was a hybrid of getting the brave scared, weak and hungry from being out there. Then he drank a herbal concoction given to him by the shaman beforehand to ingest, which he thought led to the gods casting a spell on him, but it was really the drug in the concoction that got him high and enabled him to see what was in his subconscious mind. So along with a few suggestions from the shaman, this is how many of them found their visions for their purpose in life. Anything that gives you the free time to let your mind flow in solitude for a while, unbothered by the world, will eventually lead you to your subconscious mind. Pilgrimages, retreats, living out in the woods, hiking the Appalachian Trail, taking a desert trek, going on a fast, etc. are all types of vision quests. Vision quests can't be forced. The more you try, the more you fail. You just have to sit back, and sooner or later, the intuitive forces will come out of you to the forefront of your life. In the real world, most of us have real practical concerns that prevent us from living this way, as a conscious and unconscious journey of experience all the time. So the solution is the minor vision quest, the little bits of time you take to get away from your routine and your loved ones, to be totally by yourself, to come to a focus of what's real and relevant in your life. No matter how centered or uncentered you feel in life, It's a wise idea to get away from everything for a few days every little while, to just sit around and do nothing. Don't talk to anyone and don't bother with the media too much. Just go out to the country or take a walk, then let your mind clear out all the crap in its free flow of thoughts. After a few days, whatever you believe in most will come to the surface. Some people use superficial excuses to do this, although the real reason is to think things through and get some harmony back in your life. Some guys go fishing, for aimless drives, an alleged shopping trip to another city, but the real reason is to relax, contemplate your life, to get your true soul back. Even though I'm usually centered and know what I want, where I am and where I'm going, I've found that if you get away to do nothing, after a while, the few, most important things that matter to you come into your head and stay there, invariably two things. The person you want to be. The love, of your life. It always comes down to soul and love. Once I reiterate the few defining statements of my life which we need to do from time to time because we get lost, lose our focus, I'm ready to go back to my inspired routine, happier and motivated because I know I'm doing exactly what I want out of the deal. Even though my visions rarely change, it's good to go on a vision quest just to see that you're still the same, nothing's changed. You can't force it by conscious thoughts. The real you will come out in idle thoughts when you spend enough time loafing around doing nothing in particular. Analyze your visions and go on from there. It's a great thing to do, to be by yourself long enough such that the things in your soul/subconscious come to the forefront of your thoughts. I know many people that get out of bed every day of their lives and go through a routine. Sometimes it's good to stay in bed for several days straight. Just like bears hibernate, I believe it's a good thing to totally shut down for a while to let your body rest, rebuild, revitalize and save itself for the long run. Every once in a while, I lay in bed for 3 or more days barely getting up to do anything but get food and relieve myself. This is a total state of nothingness, just laying there resting, letting my mind free itself from all its thoughts. In some intuitive way, I believe that by doing this, I'm healing myself, reinvigorating myself, and adding to my longevity for the long run. I also live by the yearly clock. I'm usually active in the spring and summer, then get more passive over the winter when I lay around more and watch the boob tube, although I still stay active, only less intense. The peak experience. Don't be vague. Live purposefully. Make the most of every opportunity. Ephesians 5:15-16. Overcome evil with good. Romans 12:21. The peak experience can best be defined as a state of beyond happiness. For me, although I can feel good through creative pursuits, I generally only get really intense peak experiences through physical activity, usually through intense sustained motion like running, swimming, biking, hiking quickly, rowing, etc. With loud music blasting through a Walkman. Anybody can dance. You can get high simply by putting on some good music and dancing uninhibited in your house. If you're fat, weak, or sedentary, there's no way you can truly enjoy your life regardless of what jolly face you put on. The happiest people are the most physically active. If it's outdoors, that's better still. The hiker, the rock climber, the swimmer, the kayaker all get it. It's really where it's at. Physical vitality is a major ingredient for an inspired soul to live a great life. Ultimately, our bodies are all we own. Developing the control of a vital, powerful body is the path to freedom. I culture my body to keep it strong and potent all the time, not just for my health but more to have control over it for my easygoing enjoyment of life and to maximize the most powerful force in my veins, that of my sex drive. Something about the sustained movement outdoors, the music through the Walkman, nature, and the release of the power within connects into my soul such that I get a very high feeling when I expend myself fully. To me, this is worth all the money in the world. Weightlifting is good exercise, but it's too slow and plodding to capture this feeling of fused motion and soul. It's all about some kind of sustained movement, anything from dancing to rock climbing. Generally, my peak experiences are a combination of these 6 things. exercise/physical activity/movement, music, nature/the great outdoors, free flow of thoughts, pets, i.e., dogs, some silence and peace. The peak experience is the feeling you get when you run the miracle mile of unleashed intense inspiration regardless of whatever version yours may be. A friend of mine runs his miracle mile when he goes nuts on his drums. Another guy sits in his workshop in his garage and creates things out of wood. It doesn't have to be intensely physical. Sometimes I get a different kind of high when I create something with the printed word. The creative expenditure fills me up and makes me feel that I'm being an artist of life, purging my best inspired energy from my system. If I create something original, it makes me feel great for a while, fulfilled for the moment, like I'm reaching for that magical place that all my free-spirited kindred spirits before me have done. This feeling most of the time for the rest of my life is what I really value in life. The latest buzzword in the holistic field is endorphins, little hormones and neurotransmitters in the brain which, when released, cause you to feel euphoric, nice, pleasurable feelings, something like natural morphine. Physical activities plus creative activities equals soulful pursuits which cause the release of endorphins as long as you take these activities to the point of exhaustion but don't cross that line into overwork which wears out your immune system and makes you feel tired and weak. There's also a power/control type issue to it. We are our bodies. If we just let them go as inanimate pieces of flesh, we're screwed. If we use them and develop control over them, it's a great way to live, not to mention that it makes you feel like $1 million racehorse. Secondly, thirdly, and fourthly are music, nature and pets, which I discuss in the Anatomy of the Soul section. I use silence and peace for a while when I'm outdoors after a run or hiking around in the woods. It's great to be outdoors in a peaceful place, watching the birds, squirrels, and the clouds, enjoying the day in silence, letting the free flow of your dreams, thoughts, and fantasies flow. I do it at home too when I lay on the bed with no mass media around and just relax in the total silence of my own thoughts with my fan blowing cool air over my body. It's great to sit back, thank your lucky stars for being alive and appreciate it. Silence is great for thinking and giving thanks for your life to your God or to life itself for the miracle it is. I combine these 6 things: exercise, music, nature, pets, silence and the free flow of thoughts on a regular basis to take me to places that are hard to get to if you live in the hustle and bustle of the so-called real world. It's not only my formula for feeling great on a daily basis, but it's also my fountain of youth and my theme in life, forever young, based on that song from the 80s. The real secret to developing a vital body is to stick with it after all the negative coaching you give yourself when you try to get back into it. I can't tell you how many countless people I see make the scene 2 to 3 times at the gym or at the park, then I don't see them anymore. The mountain ahead was too great. They accepted their lives and went back to TV and junk food. Chapter 4. Keep your soul strong. A sense of paradise. It comes down to the conscious release of your inspired sensual loving energy day by day in a sometimes intense, sometimes temperate meld, but always trying for a mood of intensity, joy, and ease, not too caught up in anything not inherent to your soul. Everybody was born with a soul that has a pre-stamped vision of life on it. A major question of existential meaning and the quest for personal identity is to what extent will you follow this vision versus to what extent will you follow the world's protocols, often without even realizing it, i.e., to what extent will you be brainwashed by the system and culture around you. The other major issue as it relates to existential meaning, the need for love and social connections, as well as the extent to which you're prone to feel lonely and sad as opposed to happy when alone, is how strongly is your need to follow your little vision or inner standard versus your need to live in a community of souls with others, to share your life with some of them in such a way that it may sacrifice some of your lone vision of what you want, or it might be a part of it, to share your life with a husband or wife, children, neighbors, friends, workmates, the local community, church congregation, etc. There is a spectrum regarding the extent to which you want to follow your soul vision of endless summer and do exactly as you please versus the extent to which you're willing to share your life with others, which will mean sacrificing some of this desire to live freely, pursuing the things you want. Very rarely does anyone get both to their full satisfaction. 1. The freedom to do what you want when you want. 2. A loving family and friends who accept you as is in your freewheeling, bohemian ways with a kindred spirit soulmate who is like you and does the exact same type of inspired activities you like to do so that you can share your love of life together. With most people, you have to meet them halfway, give them love, cater to them somewhat, spend time with them while in the back of your mind you're probably thinking about something else you'd rather be doing, since most of us are inherently self-centered, but that's love, to do what you don't want to do to please your loved ones because you love them so much. The purpose of life is to find the inner secret within yourself and live by it. The world is insane. Only you can find peace within yourself. Life has got some inklings of Carl Jung's concepts of archetypes and the collective unconscious, which go back to the source that all humanity came from, some ideal of paradise, heaven, or God locked away within ourselves that we got from our distant ancestors way back at creation, that has been passed on through the generations by our genetic seed, or something more ethereal and divine, and comes out when the conditions are right for enlightened people to get past conscious reality for a little while to access these mystical states that some people think is the subconscious mind, while I tend to think it's deeper than that. This experience within, hidden away in an individual's genetic memory, helps people like me get a clearer view of where we come from as the human race and who we are as individuals. You can't live in paradise in the real world, firstly because most of us don't have the money to create our own fantasy worlds, secondly, we can't impose our wills on how we want others to act, and thirdly, it's too damn hard anyway, because to live in paradise means you're wealthy, healthy, wise, working your ass off to attain the inner standard you want, to feel great about yourself, getting all the pleasure you want, united with a community of souls otherwise known as your family and friends, which all take a tremendous amount of effort, plus, throughout it all, you're at peace with yourself, living a calm, happy life. In order to be wealthy, it takes hard work, even if you're doing something that inspires you. A few people fluke out and become wealthy relatively easily, but most people work hard for the money. Nobody can predict if they will get a major disease or injury, but you can maximize your health by working your butt off physically, watching what you eat, trying to stay relaxed, etc. This takes effort even if it inspires you. Wisdom can't prepare you for the random misfortunes of life, even though it can help you deal with them. There might be a storm that wrecks your house, you might get into an argument with someone which escalates into a war, the government might audit you, you might get hit by a car, get a divorce, lose your job, be the victim of a crime, go bankrupt, get a big bill for a car repair, your child might become a hippie beatnik, etc. Paradise is not in the cards for most people simply because of the way life works. Some crap is always happening to you, messin' with the smooth flow of life. In order to get the pleasures you want out of life, you have to feel good about yourself, and from my experience, this only comes by constantly challenging myself through inspired activities that take a lot of effort. So if I sit back and rest on my laurels for more than a few days, I start to lose the sense of paradise within me. This is the paradox of happiness, paradise, or whatever you want to call it. You can try to set up conditions where everything is perfect, you live in a nice house, eat good food, surround yourself with a picture-perfect family, etc. But life constantly moves, and for me, I constantly have to release an intense meld of inspired, creative, physical, sensual, loving and hedonistic energy, otherwise I feel like I'm cheating myself out of life. So every morning when I wake up, it's not about what I'm surrounded by materially and physically, as long as I have the basics covered. There are euphoric producing activities of the soul and everything else. There's a big distinction between the two as to what constitutes a high quality of intense experience, therefore a high quality of life that actually makes you feel something deep and on fire for life, versus what is simply just average and mundane. The bottom line is that paradise is not a fixed entity you can nail down by owning a mansion on a tropical island, with 5 sports cars, having a position of status in the community where other people treat you with reverence because they think you're special, having an endless supply of recreational substances or home decor, whatever your bag is. It's something you must create with constant activity, a strong, intense release of your natural, inspired sensual loving energy day after day after day for the rest of your life. If you're enlightened, you know that those brief glimpses or visions you get of your few archetypes, action shots in your mind of being who you feel you were born to be, are your soul. So to me, if I endeavor to pursue an aesthetically inspired lifestyle and strive to release these archetypes inside of me, which is simply the expression of my soul, I'll be happy, living by my true nature. It's a dance, not a race. When you do your own thing, you have everything you need. The semi-naked cowboy. When I got out of the woods and back to town, I had money. First I bought all new clothes and threw the old ones away. Then I went to the Japanese barber where he and his wife not only cut my hair but got way down into my ears and nose to clean them out. Then I got myself a room halfway between the library and the whorehouse. Both were equally important. Eric Hoffer, The True Believer, 1951. Life is a dance to enjoy as you go along, not a series of goals to achieve one by one like acquiring trophies on your mantle. Although the conventional self-help, capitalist forces would like us to believe differently so that we can destroy ourselves trying to attain these illusions, thinking we got something when we're really just lost souls. You can't change the world like so many idealistic hippies before you with naive visions have tried to do, so don't destroy yourself trying to join hands with the brotherhood of humanity, because it won't happen. The world operates on the power protocol regardless of whether it's power in your neck of the woods or power in the world. Those with the power want to keep it for themselves and make it stronger while minimizing the opposing forces. This is the way it has always worked and will continue to do so for some time to come, until someone with power figures out that it's better to cooperate and share rather than fight all the time. But then the underdogs will get some power and start acting like their elitist oppressors did. Power corrupts virtually everyone. Forget about your utopian visions for the world. You have to be true to yourself. The truly happiest people know that the game of life comes down to transcendence. There are a few among us who know that a great life as opposed to a generic one comes down to purging the spirit within. The only worthy experience is to release it, to try to rise above the general mundanity of the human condition. You can't reach transcendence all the time, but as long as you give full maximum effort to inspired sensual loving ventures day after day, you can stay close enough to your inner standard to have days when you have the power let it all out full blast like the strong, untamed free spirit some of us were born with the potential to be, and this feeling within yourself is worth more than anything the world can give you. I've been there, done that for virtually anything the world dangled in front of me as cool, interesting, and or worthwhile. It always came back to me alone, facing my own standard away from all that stuff. Throughout my learning process of going out in the world to see what was out there, I kept eliminating most things after I tried them to keep coming back to me and the basic essence I had as a kid. Nothing's changed. My consciousness, therefore my essence, is still the same it was when I was a 5-year-old kid. Very few things out in the world do much for me. Your potential for happiness is really all inside of you. If you don't have this spring in your step, what you really got? This is the true prize of a life well lived, staying close to this feeling / standard and riding it as much as you can. Yet none of our so-called self-help psychobablists talk about it much. Zorba the Greek laughs at the petty bureaucratization of life the world has devolved to in the so-called postmodern era. It seems as though the more technological progress we make, the more we regress into little autonomons, getting further and further away from our true natures. By my definition, a free spirit is free because he or she does what they feel they ought to do because they feel it through some mystical, intuitive, instinctive power within their souls, as opposed to simply following the agenda the world tries to thrust on them. How much guts do you really have to follow your soul? If you want to be an enlightened free spirit, figure out what you really like to do, then figure out a way to earn your money from it. It takes guts and a strong identity to be able to do this over the entire course of a lifetime run. What is original, free, pure, and honest in you? Where's the substance and the individual character? Many people have empty souls, so they feel a need to cover themselves over with all this phony, glittery, ego crap for sale out there. Why do guys wear earrings? Why do girls color their hair? The lost and confused souls are following an agenda which is not who they really are in their souls the way they were born. This is why the world is messed up. We're not listening to the inner wisdom our gods gave us. Inspiration is goodness and godliness. You've got nothing if you ain't free. Janis Joplin. Inspired souls get inspired in only one way, doing tough, worthy, challenging things they like to do to expend this genetic seed they have inside of themselves to its max for bits of time here and there, both to get a pure thrill out of the experience and feel like they've manifested the divine part of their identities somehow. They feel like they're doing exactly what they were put on this earth to do. That's what being inspired is all about. An old Maori warrior I saw on TV looked like a country bumpkin from nowhere, yet he said something that could be the most profound and simply eloquent statement I ever heard, something like, be true to yourself, true to others, and do the hardest thing you can imagine for yourself. Then and only then will you truly become a full human being and develop such a respect for yourself that you become stronger than all the world's forces trying to manipulate you into becoming something that you're really not. This reminds me of Joseph Campbell's concept of the hero's journey and the statement I remember from a prayer somewhere, "Thank you, Lord, for giving me everything I didn't want," because only when you face adversity do you truly expend energy in discovering the essence that is you. Free people on the path seeking enlightenment will put themselves through hardships in harm's way in order to learn more about their lives. Life for an individual seeking enlightenment is to go out into the unknown world, get beat up by it, lick your wounds, learn, train yourself until you reach a point where you come back to yourself, find a sense of inner peace and inspiration which is stronger and more serene than anything the world can offer you. This is how an inspired soul develops. Life's adversities are good if they help make you a stronger, more enlightened, inspired person. If you live by your heart and soul as opposed to by your head, you're an inspired soul. The way you think about yourself is the way you'll be in real life. Your thoughts will translate into your identity. If you see yourself as a unique part of God, the divine life force of the universe, as I do because I exist and I know that some kind of divine force created me, you can't go wrong. I feel that God or some divine power created me, and part of that creation is His divine essence put into me, so I'm a part of God, therefore good and as powerful as I want to be, provided I use the power for good things. Martin Luther King said, "Greatness is determined by service." The individual who lives through his dark side in his hero's journey to understand his life and see how evil the world is, comes to the conclusion that the positive use of his inspired energy is about as divine as he can get, and it also serves the purpose of making him more inspired from the positive feedback he gets from people he helps. So this is the path enlightened people eventually take. They use their inspired power to do something good for the world. The rest of their lives is simplified into living consciously in the moment, trying to be as inspired, relaxed, peaceful and euphoric as they can be by intuitively following the aesthetic spiritual carnal meld of feelings they constantly feel inside, churning throughout their streams of consciousness. A simple life focusing on these things with love in your heart for what you value is the only way to go as far as I'm concerned. Love isn't love till it's given away. Whatever power there is in your soul to do good things for the world is nothing unless you expend that energy and use it up. Enlightened souls are not really meant to shut themselves off from the world. They're out there trying to pass their positive energy off into it. Inspired action. Life comes down to one thing: do what inspires you and expresses your love of life. Freedom is to live by your own truth. Free your mind and your feet will follow. Oh, to reach the point of death and realize one has not lived at all. Henry David Thoreau. Nothing human is alien, which is why I feel free to explore anything I want with my life while following my only rule: don't interfere with the lives of others unless they invite me in to share some of their time with me. I do what I want to do with my block of finite time. I bow down to no person, ideology, institution, or organization. Life is lived in your head. The game is to spend as much time doing the things you love to do, having fun, being eternally inspired, enjoying the journey and minimizing contact with negative forces as you go along. It's a constantly moving experience made up of many transient experiences which should be all filtered through the base you have inside of you. Within these transient experiences, some are intensely difficult, some are leisurely, some are transcendent, some are stressful, some are solitary, some are intimate, some are intuitive and some are overwhelming, but all are meaningless unless lived through the foundation in your soul. I borrow good ideas from time to time when I hear them, but other than that, as a self-contained receptacle of independent thought, my enlightenment is as good as the best the world has come up with so far, because qualitatively, the human being can only take wisdom and enlightenment so far, then it becomes a matter of holding on to your vital spark as you age. It's like Margaret Sanger, suffragette, and the pioneer of modern birth control, said in her magazine Woman Rebel, "No gods, no masters. Let God and man decree laws for themselves but not for me. Contemplation and learning are good, but by themselves, don't lead to a full life and could lead to depression and apathy if taken too far at the expense of action." Inspired sensual loving action from the soul is where the intense feelings of exertion, vitality, and bliss come from, which is the key to happiness, to feel that you took your life for a good ride today and purged the natural energy that lives inside of you in an intense, honorable way, true to who you are as an individual human being, which is what we were created for, to do the things we enjoy doing, some of which are useful to others, some of which are solely for our own pleasure, which together should give us a great mixed lifestyle of self-centered self-gratification and sharing, which is what we are in our natural state, not exclusively good or bad except for a few extremists. How much honest enthusiasm do you have about living your life as the experience it is in the moment, as opposed to working a job, making enough money to live a comfortable lifestyle, eating good tasting foods, driving a nice car, being respected by virtue of status, position, and outer dress, going around thinking you got something because they tell you you're a good little plebe, golfing on the weekends and being a good little pacified clone following the formula of one-dimensional success? The secret to life is to constantly consciously keep revitalizing the natural sense of enthusiasm that should live in your soul in all its ways, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, lovingly, romantically, creatively, sensually, and hedonistically, by expending this energy which makes you feel strong, good and inspired. Do you strive to do interesting, challenging, creatively inspired things because you know this is the only real fountain of youth and way to be happy, or has your life degenerated into a dull routine? When you live an inspired, enthusiastic life from your soul, you're too busy for anything else, especially all that negative stuff like capitalist ambition, competition with others, where you stand in the pecking order of whatever bureaucratic system you might be part of, keeping up with the Joneses, fear, worry, self-pity, woe, anxiety, depression, etc. If you feel like you're in forward motion and keep riding it, provided your effort is intelligently progressive as opposed to stupidly spinning your wheels on futile ventures, you should get what you want out of life within reason. Start every day off with the thought from Psalms 118:24 in the Bible, which basically states that God gave you another great day to live a glorious life if you want it, because one day the days will run out or be severely limited. Then you'll know how precious time really is in your finite life. My theory for life enjoyment is very simple. You have a certain amount of natural inherent potential energy that you were born with in all realms, not just in productive, straight and narrow creative, intellectual, and physical endeavors, but also in the emotional, sensual, romantic, intimate, transcendent and hedonistic realms. If you do justice to all this natural potential energy by releasing it all the time and running with life as best as you can to constantly get it all out of your system all the time, you'll always feel pretty good and never get depressed. But if you falter and let most of this energy sit inside of you unused, either due to general inactivity, couch potatoism, general anxiety, worrying about things, analyzing life too much, or follow illusions from the world that are artificial to your true primal divine way of being and interfere with living your life by the natural flow you should feel intuitively coursing through your veins, that's the beginning of mundanity which, if left unchecked, will take you over the longer you go along like this, and first lead to general dullness, then full-fledged blandness, just like Thoreau's famous line about the quiet lives of desperation many people lead. Soulful hedonistic loving pursuits. Your base, the most important thing, is to release your natural inspired energy through what I call soulful pursuits, which are activities such as reasonably intense physical activities, as with anything that works the body. Intellectual activities to exercise the mind and keep it stimulated. The release of my natural inspiration through creative pursuits. It could be anything that you create with your mind, body, or your hands. Seeking to expand my mind by feeding it with new information and knowledge. Occasional good conversation with a free thinker, not generic small talk. The search for general inspiration everywhere about the spirit of man and woman to feed off it. Quiet reflection. Purely relaxing downtime. Occasional periods of rest to replenish the soul. Culturing strong intimate relationships with lovers, relatives, friends, children, and pets. Altruistic activities to help your fellow man somehow. The free flow of thoughts unfettered. Good music. Being outdoors in nature. Playing with my dogs and cat. Pure skin-to-skin moments of intimate, romantic, sensual love for its own sake without forethought of sex. Great sex, and all sex is great. Intelligent, witty comedy. Occasional travel to great natural or exotic places to refresh my mind with a different point of view. Higher level mind enhancements. Attempts to go beyond the general mundanity of the human condition to attain higher states of consciousness through various other means. Simply by turning the stereo up in your room and dancing around for a while without feeling self-conscious in a free, easy breezy flow should be enough to lift your spirits out of any mundane mood. This is a mild example of the soulful pursuit taking you into the midst of your life force euphoria. It's a meld of everything that's beautiful, fun, interesting, inspirational, and worthwhile in life. My second category of activities is what I loosely call hedonistic pursuits, doing sensuous activities to try to get my pleasures out of life through all the primal, cerebral, and intuitive experiential senses I can find that make me feel good. My other category of pursuits necessary to live a good life is loving pursuits, things you do to try to get a sense within yourself that you're loved and that you love a few other people as special, kindred spirit, soulmate individuals, society as a whole, and pets to some degree, such that this love makes you feel connected to other souls to relieve some of the eternal solitary manner in which we all live by naturally as human beings, stuck in our heads, unable to share ourselves perfectly with anyone else for very long. A few people manage to achieve this perfect kindred spirit, soulmate connection with one or a few other people in their lives, but by and large, most people will not give nor get the love they really want over the entire course of the lifetime run. Look at soulful, hedonistic, and loving pursuits as the fuel that lights your fire to make you want to get out of bed in the morning to live out an inspired, interesting, transcendent, euphoric life. The archetype of the genetic human seed. I cannot afford to waste my time making money. Louis Agassiz. We do not believe in ourselves until someone reveals that deep inside us something is valuable, worthy of listening to, worthy of our trust, sacred to our touch. Once we believe in ourselves, we can risk curiosity, wonder, spontaneous delight, or any experience that reveals the human spirit. E. Cummings. In order to live free and happily, you must sacrifice boredom. It is always not an easy sacrifice. Richard Bach, Illusions. This, whatever you're doing now, may be your last act on earth. It may very well be your last battle. Focus your attention on the link between you and your death, without remorse, or sadness, or worrying. Focus your attention on the fact you don't have time, and let your acts flow accordingly. Let each of your acts be your last battle on earth. Only under those conditions will your acts have their rightful power. Otherwise they will be, for as long as you live, the acts of a timid man. A hunter gives his last battle its due respect. It's pleasurable that way. It dulls the edge of his fright. Carlos Castaneda, Journey to Istlan, Chapter 9. Here is a test to find whether your mission on Earth is finished. If you're alive, it isn't. Richard Bach, Illusions. Inspiration is the only real fountain of youth. The goal of life is to figure out how to stay inspired forever. You do this by having a regular routine of activities that excite and drive you. You should have a strong personal desire to be in harmony with your essence/soul. Awareness of what's in your soul could be straight, clear, true, and pure, or it could evolve gradually. Your soul contains your natural tendencies for things that give you intense emotional excitement. This should be the fuel of your life, the only thing that really matters. These few activities, soulful pursuits, should absorb you and intrinsically satisfy you enough to sustain passionate, inspired commitment for a lifetime. The enlightened soul strives to take full control of his or her work and life. Most enlightened souls don't want to work for others, so they either start their own businesses, do some kind of creative independent contract work, or live out their lives as the proverbial artist, some starving, some doing quite well money-wise. In any event, they own themselves. I've lived enough years on the poverty end of the scale as defined by society, but it didn't bother me much because I had the basics of what I needed to live comfortably according to my standards, which means I don't need much. But the thing is that I totally owned all my time. I had the freedom to do as I pleased, and I did with joy. I didn't want to work some dull job somewhere. I chose my frugal life in order to own it without being in bondage to money and materialism all the time. Life is simply an unmapped canvas of ongoing time. Enlightened free spirits know this and take full responsibility for this ride of experience known as a human lifetime. Everything is inside you, all your potential for happiness. You don't get taken in by all those fake illusions the system tries to dangle in front of you to buy your soul, things like trying to get you hooked on money, material things, status, fame, position, tourist travel, amusement parks, etc. You have an inner core of stability and inspiration that runs your life. The way I see it, the deepest life you can live is to try to probe your mind and even go beyond it to discover this essence inside of you, that may tie into a common essence of humanity beyond just your individual, preordained whims and desires. I get these deep, inspired visions here and there naturally, but most often with my use of recreational substances. I live in a romantic haze of eternal archetypes and the collective unconsciousness. It's a great way to live. Don't let them fool you with their negative propaganda. How do you find out who you are? You explore your life and don't just accept the package deal presented to you. Nothing is so dear and precious as the finite time of your life. Being yourself enlightened means you go to bed every single night of your life knowing you have a purpose with things to do in the morning. The goal of life in the real world is to earn enough money doing the things you want to do to give you the freedom to keep doing the things you want to do. An enlightened free spirit wants to get at what really makes him or her tick and live by it. He or she knows there's nothing fascinating happening anywhere on planet Earth that he absolutely must be at or do in order to feel fulfilled, because his feelings of fulfillment are within himself, while a brainwashed clone is always looking outside of him or herself for fulfillment, thinking that something out there is gonna do something significant to make him feel good about his life. It's like these people trying to be American Idols, feeling crushed if they are kicked out of the competition. Why don't you just work on your craft day by day and be happy that you've found your calling and are doing something you love to do? The world is polluted and many people are polluted by it, always looking for a sense of fulfillment by following something like the sports fan who cheers for some professional team who are a bunch of overpaid guys who could care less who they play for as long as they get the biggest contract. But the biggest pollutant of all is probably the self-delusion a lot of people live by, thinking they're really cool and fly according to pop culture standards, like they're living large in some cosmetics commercial or a big bad dude in a so-called action movie. You either got that enlightened sense within yourself that your life is fine regardless of all that stuff out there, or you're just a lost soul looking for love and approval from all those things the system has set up for you to go for, telling you these are the things you must want and strive for in order to be successful and be a cool, happy, happening citizen. In the book The Murdering of My Years, Artists and Activists Making Ends Meet, 2003, edited by Mickey Z., there are some statements like, consequently, at the tender age of 5 or 6, we are taught that different does not belong. The 24 individuals who have shared their stories in this book, have made the premeditated decision to become an activist and/or artist and, by definition, be different in a culture that values sameness while marginalizing individuality. Everywhere we are inundated with the American theology of individualism within the entrepreneur model. The heroes that are packaged and sold to us are Wall Street speculators, professional athletes, and digitally or surgically enhanced celebrities. The dreams we are encouraged to fulfill seem to be limited to appearing on television, purchasing consumer electronics and gambling on the lottery. Civil society is vanishing while fortitude is measured by bungee jumps, morality is dropped along with cluster bombs from 15,000 feet, and solidarity has been reduced to waiting in line for hours to see a blockbuster film. The only way you get to really be a winner is to be true to yourself. Have the guts to find the inspired power that lives inside of your soul. Be strong enough to live by it. Be wise enough to parlay it into the means to earn your cash. Then go off into the sunset with your soulmate equal if you're into that fairy tale, romance thing which a lot of free-spirited types aren't. They're too free to commit to anything but life in the moment. Enlightened free spirits take what comes and live it for the straight transient experience it is, with no strong attachments to anything that requires commitment or responsibility that might stifle the free easygoing flow of life coursing through their veins peacefully unhassled by the world, except when they want to be stimulated by what's out there on their own terms, which is what the definition of free spiritism is. The real purpose of life, as far as living in the capitalist world of material reality goes, is to find the truth and beauty in yourself, express it in such a way that you help, entertain, and/or inspire people and they pay you for it. If you want to live free, read this book and try to develop your primal divine spark to feel the way Vincent van Gogh probably felt one night looking up at the stars painting Starry Night, or how Thomas Edison felt when he was on the cusp of creating something new.